the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Thank you, Karen, and good morning, councillors and officers, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, to the Ordinary Council meeting for the 14th of November, thank you very much for your attendance. I'd first like to begin with acknowledgement to country and acknowledge the traditional custodians in the land in which we meet today, the Darumbal people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Extending that respect to our neighbouring Aboriginal peoples within our local government area, the Gungaloo Nation people, the Barada, Cabelbarra and Yetamarala people. Also acknowledging the Torres Strait Islander peoples whose lands are in the Torres Straits but who live and work on Aboriginal land. Councillors and officers, I'll ask to stand, and we'll invite the Reverend Dagan from the Seventh-day Adventist Church to do our morning blessing. Thank you.
Let's pray together. Our loving Heavenly Father, we gather this morning in this chamber before we start our businesses with grateful hearts, seeking your guidance and your blessings for our region, our city of Rockhampton, and its leaders. We thank you this morning for the dedicated service of our mayor, our councillors who tirelessly work for the welfare and progress of our community here. This morning we pray that you will grant them wisdom as they make decisions that impact the lives of our fellow community members. May their decision be guided by justice, compassion, and a deep understanding of the need of our diverse community. We also pray for unity among our leaders, that they may work together harmoniously for the greater good of our city and its region. Bless their efforts, Lord, to create a thriving and safe environment where all residents can flourish. Lord, this morning we pray for your grace to abound in our region here. May Rockhampton region be a place of kindness, generosity, and understanding. Let your light shine through the actions of our leaders and residents alike. As we lift up our city in our region before our Lord, we are praying for your protection and your favor. We pray, Lord, that you will watch upon our neighborhoods, our schools, our churches and places of worship, and upon all those who call this region home. And we pray this prayer in the name above all names, in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Reverend. And again, we're so lucky to live in a country that we do when we see the recent conflicts around the world today, how blessed we are. And thank you very much for your blessing. Thank you. Councillors, we move on to presence and attendance. We have Councillor Rutherford, who is on her way. She should caught in the traffic at the moment, and Councillor Fisher is online, and otherwise we'll have a full house. So we'll move for a request of leave of absence from Councillor Kirkland from the 21st of November to the 26th of November inclusive. Move Councillor Smith, seconded Councillor Latcham. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. And moving on to confirmation of the previous minutes from the Ordinary Council meeting of the 24th of October 2023 be confirmed. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Again, moved Councillor Latcham, seconded Councillor Smith. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried. I'll make sure of that in the next one we get to. Councillors, we move on to our next one there with the declarations of interest on matters on the agenda. We note one, Councillor Kirkland has one with the Seven Rocky River Run charity beneficiary. Councillor Kirkland, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There's two there. I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 11.1, the Seven Rocky River Run charity beneficiary. Its declarable interest arises because I participated in the fundraiser for Fitzroy Community Hospice as a Hoist Your Boss participant. I will deal with this conflict by leaving the room and staying away from the place where the meeting is being held and the matter is being discussed and voted on. Would you like me to read the second one as well? The second one is I have a declarable interest in item 11.10, consideration of support for Fitzroy Community Hospice. The declarable conflict of interest arises as I participated as a fundraiser in the Fitzroy Community Hospice as a Hoist Your Boss participant, which was lots of fun. I will deal with the conflict by leaving the room and staying away from the place where the meeting is being held when this matter is being discussed and voted on.
Thanks, Councillor Kirkland, for clarifying those conflicts. Moving on to items, business outstanding, nil, public forums, deputations, nil, and presentations of petitions. We have a petition there from Councillor Smith. You wish to present that petition?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I've been presented with a petition and covering letter from lead petitioner Brendan Ford of 192 McLaughlin Street, Gracemere, representing residents in the Ferrybower area. Residents who have signed the petition live in both McLaughlin Street and Ferrybower Road. This area is in both Division 4, McLaughlin Street, and Division 6, Ferrybower Road. I will present petition 2, signed by 23 residents, requesting that the speed limit along McLaughlin Street be reduced from 80 kilometres an hour to 50 kilometres an hour for the purpose of child, pet and public safety. There is also a list of other concerns they have expressed in the covering letter, which I have logged with blue. So over to Councillor Wickerson.
Councillor Wickerson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is probably part one of the same petitioner, Mr. Brendan Ford, who also lives in McLaughlin Street. So this is to seek access to metered water for the area. They're concerned about bushfire and also public amenity with having access to town water. So again, it has the 22 signed participants, but there's also another 213 that were on an online version of the same. So happy to present that to the table.
Okay, thank you. And councillors, there's the recommendation with regards to both of those positions. Never had one like that, but there you go. So there's always a first, but that is the recommendation there, councillors. So Councillor Smith, you're happy to move. Councillor Wickerson, second. Speakers for. Speakers against. I'll put the resolution. Those in favour. Those opposed. Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors, and thank you for that result. Moving on to committee reports, we have a committee report of 9.1, the Audit and Business Improvement Committee meeting from the 26th of October 2023. Could I have a mover and a second with regards to the recommendation? Councillor Fisher, did you wish to move that one? Move, Councillor Fisher. We have a seconder. Councillor Latcham, did you wish to speak to the report at all? That's fine. Okay, if there's no questions, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. There's nil councillor delegate reports. We'll move on to officers' reports, councillors. 11.1, the Seven Rocky River Run, and Councillor Kirkland take leave of the meeting, and then we'll present that report and invite you back at that time. Thank you. I'll hand over to Zach. Good morning, Zach.
Well, good morning, Mayor. Good morning, councillors. It's my pleasure to present, I think, 3 reports in a row this morning, but this first one here is for the Seven Rocky River Run charity beneficiary. So the summary is that this report outlines a request for Rockhampton Regional Council to approve the recommended charity partner for the 2024 Seven Rocky River Run, due to be held on the 19th of May, and outline the donation amount to be paid. So my recommendation, the officer's recommendation, is that Council approve the proposed charity donation amount of $2 per registration, which is in line with what we've done previously, and that the charity beneficiary be the Fitzroy Community Hospice. Some background there. So we approached and solicited the official charities of Rockhampton Regional Council to apply to be the charity beneficiary, and the ones that did reply, we then conducted an evaluation of those charities based on those 4 values that you see in front of you, being the purpose, the impact, the number of people the charity will have a positive impact on, the charity, what the charity can provide for the event of Seven Rocky River Run, and there was also a consideration for charities that Council has supported in the past. Now, with the Rocky River Run, because it's $2 per registration, we actually lean on our charity beneficiary to assist with promoting the run and to get those registrations in, which will then in turn increase the beneficiary that they receive. So my recommendation is that Council approves the $2 and that our charity beneficiary be the Fitzroy Community Hospice.
Thanks very much, Zach, for that report. Councillors, questions to Zach on that report? Okay, I look for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Rutherford, happy to move. And seconded Councillor Latcham. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Zach. We'll just invite Councillor Kirkham back into the meeting, and we'll move on to our next item, which would be 11.2, the 2024 Rockhampton Agricultural Show Committee. Thanks very much, Councillor Kirkland. Over to you again, Zach, 11.2.
Well, Mayor and Councillors, the next report here outlines our Rockhampton Agricultural Show Committee for 2024, and I can't wait for this Rocky Show. So held between the 12th and 14th of June next year. So the officer's recommendation is that Council endorse the membership of the Show Committee for 2024, that being myself as the Chair, being in the position of Tourism and Events Manager, Councillor Alan Smith, whilst appointed as a councillor, Councillor Grant Mathers, whilst appointed as a councillor, Peter Curtis, Rod Green, Ian Lovegrove, Shani de Klerk, and Eileen Brown, the Events Coordinator of Advance Rockhampton. Just wanted to touch on quickly about our wonderful councils that are part of this committee and have contributed a lot for the 2023 event. With reference to council's caretaker period policy, our two councillors that hopefully will be a part of the show committee would need to be aware of the limitations during the caretaker period and ensure that they're complying with those requirements. So the recommendation is that council endorse that 2024 show committee.
Thanks very much, Zach. Councillors, any questions to that one? Councillor Wickerson?
Thanks, Mayor. Only one query, Zach. Everyone on the committee did a fantastic job, including Ms. Shani de Klerk, I can say. On maternity leave until November, no issues around that? Is there a special... No?
Yeah, and we have gone out to all of the current, or from 2023 committee members, and there are a couple of considerations for a couple of them that have leave, and we've approved all of those. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
This committee is also an advisory committee based on historic decisions and ways that we can make the show the best that it can be. Yeah.
Thank you, Zach. And again, I'd just like to commend the committee. It's part of the structure of the show and really important cog in that wheel, presenting a fantastic event for our community in a very busy year for 2024. So we'll see a lot of activity there, but we want to make sure that the Rocky Show doesn't lose any of its glitter during that time. And I'm sure with that committee we'll definitely look for a better and a bigger event every year. So mover and a seconder with regards to that one. Move Councillor Kirkland, seconded Councillor Fisher. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Zach. Moving on to your trifecta, 11.3, the sponsorship of a sporting event. So thanks very much, Zach. I'll hand over to you.
Well, Mayor and Councillors, good morning. The third report for this morning from me, I'd just like to start by saying that this report, at the time when I was writing it, the event was embargoed. Since then, it has been released to the public, so it is written quite high level and vague, but I can release all the details verbally, and you can find that online as well. So a summary of this report, an opportunity has arisen to sponsor a pre-season NRL game of the Dolphins v Capras, and this will be on the weekend of the 10th, 11th and 12th of February. For this particular pre-season game, this opportunity usually only comes up once every 2 years for the Capras to invite a pre-season game, but this particular opportunity is because another region has been unable to do this opportunity, so it's been presented to us. For this particular weekend, it's not just about one game of the Dolphins v Capras. There's actually 6 games included from all of the regions that are within that 4-hour drive radius of Rockhampton that are going to be playing 5 games before. The expectation of visitor numbers and players sits around that 3,000 mark. Now, at time of writing this report, we also put in that it was to be based on an appropriate home for this game to be played, given the considerations of the Capras home game of Brown Park about to undergo some significant improvements. They were looking at some other places, but they have come out, the Dolphins and Capras have come out and said that it will be played at Brown Park on that weekend of the 10th, 11th and 12th. And so my recommendation for us to be able to enable this great sport tourism that fills up our hotels, our restaurants, it also, for a lot of people, it's their family holiday as well. So bringing some of those extra games Capras versus Mackay, under 17 and 19, both male and female games. Capras versus the North Devils, and then Capras versus the Dolphins. For us, this is a great event that we can support through a cash sponsorship. So the recommendation is that you support a cash sponsorship of $10,000 to go towards the Capras to bring this pre-season NRL Dolphins v Capras game to our Rockhampton region.
Okay, thanks very much, Zach. Councillors, any questions to Zach on that report? Councillor Rutherford.
Mr Mayor, I really don't have a problem with this. Probably just a little more information, Zach, if you could please, because this, the Dolphins, I'm guessing it's not their NRL Dolphins team.
Yep, it's just
so we're mixing levels of...
So the hero game that will be played last is the Dolphins team versus our Capras team.
So have we got a guarantee of some of those NRL named players?
Yeah, it will be
Sorry, and the reason I raise this is previously when we have had pre-season games, we've not had any of the elite stream players in those teams.
Okay, I can take that on notice and ask the Capras and Dolphins what that looks like, but my understanding is it's the full team.
Yeah, probably if I could, with the relationship between the Capras and the Dolphins, they normally, part of their, the agreement is that they have 6 of the 30-man squad playing for the Capras, so you'll have those elite players playing for the Capras, but also the squad from the Dolphins will be their top side, led to believe. So they may rest players or have a couple of players that they'd like to trial, but overall it'll be the majority of the squad playing in that game, my understanding. But we can confirm that, but normally that trial game before the start of the season is one where they have a hit out to really trial all their gun players before the game. So, and that relationship with the affiliation with the Capras, we've seen how good they've been able to perform last year because of that elite players dropping down to play as a second tier team with the Capras.
Yeah, and thanks, Mr Mayor, and it's not that it's not a good thing, it is, but it just concerns me that in previous times it's been billed as the NRL teams coming to play a pre-season game, so the community has an expectation that they're going to see those players, and that hasn't been fulfilled, so it leaves a lot of people with a little bit of a bad taste. So, I think we need to be very clear about what this actually is, whatever that pans out to be.
We'll get that information, pass it on to council, but you are right, that has occurred previously, and people have commented that they pay to see the stars of the NRL in that trial match. So that's it. Councillor Latcham and then Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Question through to Zach. Zach, and this is a great announcement, and I look forward to it every year. We're very much a rugby league loving area, and it's great to see another event being planned for up here. The question I've got is the players themselves. Will they be here like the day before and stay the night, or are they just in and out straight up?
Yeah, sorry, it was remiss of me to talk through the calendar of the whole weekend. So on the Friday, so 10th, 11th and 12th, so on the Friday there'll be school visits, kids coaching clinics. Then on that Friday evening there will be a sports dinner at the Rockhampton Leagues Club, and guest speakers including Wayne Bennett and Terry Reader. Then on the Saturday there'll be a coaching clinic with all the rugby league coaches invited to attend. Then the games get played. There's also an all abilities clinic that happens on that Saturday as well. And then on the Sunday, there's a kids coaching clinic as well that happens. So it's a great weekend. Having those events over multiple days also increases our overnight visitor expenditure with people that might live slightly out of the region. It might be Mackay or Bundy, might do a day trip, but because it's multiple days, that will increase our accommodation occupancy as well. And this these discussions between us and Capras has been ongoing for a few months now about this particular game, and it's within our event budget.
Great, that's great to hear.
And it's great that it hasn't been embargoed and you're able to talk about that, Zach, because it does help the councils understand what the benefits could be in that game. Question, Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Latcham, for asking that question, because that's alluded to, it's answered some of my question was around the $10,000 and what actually is going to be purchased with that $10,000. I don't have a problem with it. You know, the benefits, the cost benefit of what, as you've said, that attraction to our community and the flow on of the spend into our region is always going to be great. And I did really want that elaborated on, so I suppose you've already done that, but maybe just in a little bit more detail what that 10,000 goes toward and whether we can expect there'll be a demand for more money, because that sounds like 10,000 for all of those activities. Is it paying for all of those activities, or are the community going to be paying for other things as well? Or
we'd only be one sponsor of a number of sponsors, Councillor.
That's what
they
I thought,
traditionally do. It costs quite a bit to bring those teams to the team. Yeah.
So will we be able to know who those other sponsors are, or do you know those now?
I don't know those now, sorry, but I can take that on notice and let you know. Yeah,
Thanks.
this only came unembargoed on Friday, and it was a soft announcement by the Dolphins, not by the Capras. Still building on that, and we've got a good 3 months in the lead up to this event, so it's a really good lead time to get our bang for buck from a sponsorship point of view. And for us, for our Advanced Rockhampton tourism team, we work really closely with some of our deliverables with, pointing back to our Explore Rockhampton tourism leisure-facing website for how to spend the weekend. And so hopefully we can impact on some of those people travelling here. If they were just thinking about coming for the game itself, maybe they do stay 1 or 2 days and explore our great Rockhampton region.
Thank you, Zach. Mr Mayor, may I ask one other question? Yep. So will we be doing will you be planning other things around that same weekend then, Zach, for potentially families that might be bringing children for those workshops, for example, that might want to do other things? So markets or anything else will be happening?
We're not planning anything extra, but there's so many existing experiences and attractions that families can visit in our region any day. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor, I'm happy to move, and Councillor Rutherford second. Look, I think this is a fantastic event, and that traditional rivalry between Rocky and the Cutters in Mackay is always an event to go and watch anyway. But having the Dolphins play the Capras, it's just going to be so exciting, and one there that I'm sure, and I've seen lots of Dolphin sponsorship going around, where the locals are starting to jump on board with that team as well. So it's a great opportunity, and like Councillor Latcham has mentioned, it's in NRL's in the blood with the local community here. So I believe this is going to be a great event, and it's going to be a boost to our local economy, which is a win-win for the Rocky region. On that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. There you go, Zach. 3 out of 3.
Thank you.
We'll move
I shouldn't
on.
say fins up, but fins up.
We'll move on.
I mean, go Capras.
We'll move on to our next item, which is 11.4, the extension of the CBD dining platform program, and I'll ask Jack to present that report. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors. By now, I'm sure that each of you have enjoyed a morning latte or maybe a late night kebab on one of Council's very own CBD dining platforms. Since its inception in 2017, it's been a silent workhorse in improving the vibrancy of the Rockhampton CBD. So we recommend today that, contrary to previous decisions extending 3 years, that we extend to the end of the 2024 calendar year to allow Advanced Rockhampton to do some more detailed stakeholder engagement around the CBD dining platform and its future and some other CBD related topics. The second recommendation is that we be authorised at Advanced Rockhampton to reallocate the unallocated revenue that is generated through the higher fees associated with the dining platforms to maintain the operations of the program. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jack. Councillors, questions to that report? Councillor Smith.
Oh yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. So probably a question and a comment. I think they're fabulous. I love them. But I probably didn't read it properly when we first built them, because I didn't realise we were charging for it. So it's $1,350 for a year, but over in the terms and conditions, it says $500 per car park. So is that on top of the $675 for 6 months, or is that, so they either pay that or $500 for the loss of a car park? It's just in the
Jack,
terms
have
and
you got
conditions. They might be old terms and conditions.
I'm not sure.
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the
There is a cost to installing and the purchase of those
I
items,
realise
yes.
that, but I thought we were so anxious to get people to do it. I didn't realise we were actually charging, but it would be a cost, you know, a fair cost for some people, but others obviously think it's great. But probably my question is, when I read it, I thought, now, are we extending it to get more people in, or are we extending it to say to the people that are there now, oh, we're not doing it anymore? Like, is the extension to get more? So obviously we wouldn't be kicking anyone out that's already there. If we extend it, say, 2 years, whatever it is, the people that are already there can keep going after that. I'm just thinking we're halting it after that extension of time.
I'm not sure it'll be coming back to the council table for a decision at that point, I'd imagine, to see what the next steps would be, whether to extend further and have more, or whether you reach a saturation point, and then you need, you're losing car parks and what other businesses that aren't having the opportunity, afford the opportunity, can have their say on things as well. So it's a bit of a mix and match, but it's an enhancement to the CBD to attract more people, and they've been fantastic the way that they've been able to operate. But they do come at a cost, and that cost is borne by the business that gets the benefit from them. Jack, did you have anything further to add on that?
Yeah, through the chair, if you don't mind, to answer some of those, Councillor. Firstly, in regards to the change in hire fees, $500 exclusive of GST was what was cited in that information package that was initially released in 2017. So just before the end of August, which is when all of our current hire agreements had lapsed, I looked into aligning that a bit more closely with inflation. And in consideration for the budget, and I'd worked with the finance team on finding a more reflective number. And secondly, with regards to the extension of the program, we have just gone ahead and re-signed 3 of the contracts, and we're looking at, we're working with a 4th proponent as well. So that should see us through to late 2024, and then from there we will come back to the table with some feedback on how those agreements went, and some larger stakeholder engagement.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy with that, as long as people are happy to pay that amount.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Councillor Kirkland and Councillor Rutherford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Jack, just to date, have you got any feedback on things that aren't working with the platforms that could be shared? So, for example, I noticed that some of them have beautiful plants potted around and then others don't. Is there a level of consistency or an expectation as to what that's going to look like moving forward, to have that obviously in one of our premium areas in the CBD? And also early on I recall that there were trip hazards that were related to the platforms, whether there's been any rectification of that or whether that's been overcome in another way.
Through the chair, with regards to the first part of your question related to the aesthetic of the platforms, I don't think that there was an expectation set on how it's presented with regards to plants, etc. But the opportunity was given to the proponents. It was their responsibility to maintain the plants, put them out, bring them back in for insurance purposes. Unfortunately, there was perhaps some unsavoury things done with those assets belonging to the businesses, which sort of took away the incentive for them to put them out each day. We have been working with the facilities team on making some small improvements to facilitate some improvement. That just all comes at an expense, so we're just juggling that in the meantime. In regards to trip hazards, I'm not aware of any hazards, and I am not up to speed on the history of that. However, no, I can't speak to how incident-free they are, but yeah, I'll take that on notice if you don't mind, Councillor.
Councillor Wickerson? Councillor Rutherford, sorry.
Mr
Councillor
Mayor,
Rutherford.
I was just going to say that I think these platforms were a bit of a game changer for the CBD area. I think it started to show that the CBD could be used for a different purpose, and getting people outside dining, you know, and bringing people into the CBD. I think they've really done exactly what they were supposed to do. I think it is timely to reassess the whole situation, see whether there's ways we can add on to that, and if there is any tweaks that need to be made. But for the most part, I think these have been a fabulous introduction to the CBD.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Wickerson?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Probably comment on some questions as well. As Councillor Rutherford said, these are an amazing asset for the CBD when we first brought them in, and overall I think the benefits have been many, bringing vibrancy and more activation into the CBD, especially after hours, is really good. There have been a little bit of issues that I'm aware of, being my area down there, that obviously people begrudge losing a car park for it, but I think the trade-off for that is worthwhile. Where shop owners will change, so the initial shop owner or property owner or tenant will request one of these, but then that changes, so the new person coming in doesn't want them because of the car park or whatever, but the contract is still there, so we might need to look at if there's an early exit to that if that changes. I know of one that's been modified probably outside of our own building codes, where they put ad hoc shade covers over these things, which is admirable that they take that initiative, but it's also got to comply with building in case the thing blows off and causes some damage. So again, we need to probably address that. And I don't know whether the second part of this, putting the money back into the operation and the maintenance of it, would even go anywhere near maybe designing some permanent shade over it, or whether we encourage the shop owners to put up market umbrellas or something like that, like some of them have. So that would be interesting. The public always pick up when there's empty shops down the CBD. There's been some new tenants moved in, and one I'm going to focus on is Leo's Cafe, a young fellow right beside the East Street links through where the crocodile painting is. Very keen to have one of these outside of his new cafe. So I think while some shops close, others are taking advantage of the new vibrancy we've created. So I think you're aware of that new property owner or a business owner that's really keen to have one of these. But one thing that he suggested, Mr Mayor, is that maybe we've got two of these spare dining platforms that maybe they could go into the East Street links, if there's a way we can accommodate that to have some more activation of that linkage through, which I think Councillor Rutherford and I were chatting yesterday, that was the initial purpose of it, to have not only an access way through to the Ramoa from East Street, but also to have that activation and dining and after hours activity. Like we've seen through River Festival, I think the ad hoc setup.
No, and that's something I think probably take away from the recommendation, but there's, with the Chemist Warehouse work to go on there, I think that's just been holding that planning around what to do with the links. So until that's, the decision's made there, don't want to go in there and put stuff in there and find out that you need to pull it out. But no, overall, I think that's another option that we can look at going forward. I know there are some further reports on CBD activation coming up, and we could be able to discuss that at that point. But probably not to take away from this one, but yeah.
No, and I'm happy to support this, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, councillors. If there's no further questions, I'll move. And could I seek a second? Councillor Wickerson. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Jack, for your report. Thank you.
Through the Chair, if I may, I'd just like to, on the end of Councillor Wickerson's comment, I think that the new Cafe Leo's, as soon as it opened, showed interest. I think it is a testament to the benefit of the program, if there's immediate interest in it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, no worries, thank you. Okay, councillors.
Sorry, I forgot to probably acknowledge this one before. The
Conflict.
lady that owns this nursery and operates it is an acquaintance, not a friend, but I am a regular customer at the nursery because I kill
Lombo.
everything I buy and I keep going back. So,
Yeah.
I just get advice from the CEO. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah, there's no conflict between your personal interest and the public interest in the matter? No.
Righto. Okay, thanks, councillors. We'll move on to 11.5, the development application, and is it Aidan or Amanda? Aidan, thanks very much. Present that report.
All right. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning, councillors. Through the chair, I'm just here to present an application to you with it's a material change of use for a garden centre for a nursery based in Bouldercombe, and an accompanying advertising sign. Is that going to work? All right, so yeah, it's located on Cumbert Drive up to the north of Bouldercombe area there, just off the Burnett Highway, fairly close to the highway there. All right, so yeah, the application seeking to formalise existing nursery operation there. Has limited hours of operation, as shown on the screen there. Generally serves a small number of customers every day, apart from the occasional sales, which may see a little bit of an increase. Has a small number of deliveries throughout the year, plants and soil. And then it just also proposing a sign in the front area there, which you can sort of see at the bottom of the screen, that bit. So the proposal includes a modified driveway access to allow driving in from the west and out on the east. It has 3 car parks as shown there, and through negotiation with the applicant, we have negotiated an additional 2 car parks for those peak times to allow for, to cater for potentially higher demand, and that also better aligns it with our planning scheme. Also showing general nursery area towards the back there. Now there was a proposal for an additional greenhouse. However, as we've investigated it, and through a lot of the, through the submissions we received and our own investigations, we've sort of teased out where we think there is the reasonable line for a commercial operation of this nature in a rural residential area, and we don't think we should be sort of encouraging further expansion beyond what's already there. But apart from that, we do consider the application to be viable in that area, the way it is proposed at this point in time. And we believe that with the conditions that have been recommended, that this application should be approved.
Okay, thanks very much, Aidan. Councillor Latcham, question?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a question. I was just intrigued with their trading hours. They're all up and down, so to speak. I mean, that's their choice, and with their application, I would have thought it would have been simply just to add it to apply for 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and if they don't want to open till 4 o'clock, they can. I know it's just a comment on that, but I just thought it was unusual that they just didn't consistently go till 4 o'clock, even 7 days or whatever. But that's their application, so I understand that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Latcham. Councillor Rutherford.
Aidan, thank you. I was just curious with the additional greenhouse, if it was just a private residence that had a passion for landscaping, for plants and whatever, and they wanted that extra greenhouse, would there be anything that would stop them having that?
Yeah, through the chair, no, there would be if it was purely for private use. The difference being that is being a commercial purpose, that it would invite additional customers and business in that case, and that's where we see the point of difference.
So is there something behind that statement that says the more plants you have or the more spread out you are, the more customers you necessarily get? That just doesn't seem very technical to me.
Yeah, no, fair comment. So with that, where we're coming from is purely from the amenity of the area and the neighbouring properties, and the continued expansion and additional customers is just, there has been a bit of pushback there, and so we've really tried to find the correct balance there of allowing this operation to go ahead while also considering the amenity of those neighbouring properties.
So that's probably a better answer than the original one, I think,
I think, to me, it's a little fair. If it was a private person, they can put up as many greenhouses as they like, but because they're running a business there, they're limited. It's the same, it would be, the impacts would be exactly the same, except maybe some cars from
I think
the
it's more
front,
around the
you know.
amenities, as the officers mentioned, rather than the business side of it. Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Maiden?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to say I thought that this demonstrated the flexibility of the planning team, Mr Mayor, in regards to, they've taken on board the submissions that we've got, and we understand that it is a small home-based business, but I think by the idea of not allowing that extension is to keep it within the realms of a small-based business. If they're producing more products, that could maybe then push them outside of the sides of a home-based business. And I like the fact that the team have worked to get that parking off-road as well, because that was some of the issues in the submissions as well. So I think that the team's found a very good compromise with this, Mr Mayor, and I'm happy to support it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Mathers. Any further questions? If not, you're happy to move, Councillor Mathers. Seek a seconder. Councillor Kirkland. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors, and thanks very much for your report, Aidan. We'll move on to our next item, is 11.6, Rockhampton Zoo Conservation Contributions 22-23. Okay. Do we want to wait for that one and jump over that? So I'll probably need a mover and a seconder that we move on to the next agenda item and come back to that point once. Who's coming? Was it Liz? Yeah. Okay. Move to the next order of business. Okay. Point 1.2 at the end of the council agenda, councillors, just to accommodate that. I'm happy to move. Seek a seconder. Seconder, Councillor Mathers. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried. Yeah, but 11.6 to 11, after 11.12. Righto. Now we'll move on to 11.7, the expressions of interest for supply of asphalt mixture. And I'll ask Blue to present that report for us, please. Thank you. Good morning, Blue.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This one here, our asphalt supply tender runs for 10 years and is due to expire mid-next year. It's a significant amount, so we want to go out to an EOI to the industry first to get an indication about what sort of lead times will be involved in establishing either permanent plants or temporary plants. These are significant parts of how they'll service the contract. We want to make sure that we're being realistic with industry. There's no point us going to tender and giving them 3 months when it's realistically going to take them 12 months to get themselves organised. This is what this EOI process will involve. Basically finding out from the market what they will need and for us to be able to work around that. That way we'll get the best arrangement for council.
Are there any local suppliers in that space, Lou, or do we, is it outside the local area?
We've got some existing suppliers based in town. At least one does have a plant which is long in the tooth, and another one is considering establishing something. However, they're not going to do it without having a contract in place.
Yeah.
This will allow us to canvass the market to actually level the playing field.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Mathers and Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Just through you to Blue, if that's all right. Yeah. Blue, thanks very much for this report. I've got no issues with it whatsoever. I just got a couple of questions, if that's all right. 10 years, you know, with the volatility of pricing and, you know, the way things are changing, is there any particular reason why we, you know, what's the benefit of that, of it being such a long tender or such a long contract?
The main reason for that longer period, similar to like garbage contracts are done over a long period, it can require a significant capital investment by the proponent, and this gives a reasonable period to repay it back, and that way they can factor that in. So if we did it on a very quick turnaround, would discourage people from entering the market, but the longer period gives that ability to attract players in.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, and that makes sense, and I suppose because otherwise the existing proponent may have a more of an advantage than the
yes.
new
Being able
proponents.
That competition will lead to efficiencies for council and the community.
Yeah, and Mr Mayor, just another one, if that's right. If I can just ask Blue, in regards to, I know we can't go into detail of the tender, but is it written in there that there's CPI adjustments in pricing, or is it do we try to do a fixed price for that period of time, or
with the, like I said, the volatility of the market, and rather than locking in specific figures, there are periods in there where the rates can be reviewed, and there's a robust process around that, which we've used similarly on our wet and dry hire panels.
Okay, cool. All right, so we do have the. So, sorry, I don't want to go into detail. I'm just saying, so we do have the ability to reassess.
Just, if I could, just through the chair, this is just an expression of interest. So you might flush out other different types of pricing models as well on the way through. It's not locked in as per a tender and a contract. So that's another reason why I'd go for an EOI to start with, because they might have another way of pricing, or pricing a new plan and supplying the goods and services.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good way to go, Mr CO. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Councillor Mathers. Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, through you to Blue. So this is totally separate to the slurry seal, correct? Or,
yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear in that. And the current suppliers are not local, is that correct?
For the slurry seal microservicing, no, they currently...
No, not for the slurry seal, for this.
These current suppliers are local.
Yeah.
But there are other players who are working out whether it's worthwhile getting into the market.
Competitive is good. Yeah.
Probably two parts, Mr Mayor. If some of the councillors recall last time we went out for the supply of asphalt, the successful tenderer or the successful contractor made some moves to, or commitments to actually upgrade their facilities. It was fairly contentious with the council last time, and hence why it's back here today. And it will come back once we get to the end of the expression of interest for council to assess the expression of interest received. The second part, Mr Mayor, is you note that the recommendation on the screen is different to what was in there. Council have to provide the reasons why they're only going out to the expression of interest.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for clarification around that point, Mr CEO. Councillors, any further questions to Blue on this one? I'll have a mover and a second. I move Councillor Smith, seconded Councillor Rutherford. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move on to item 11.8, which is a minor infrastructure program round 2, Jardine Park Court repairs. And invite Justin to present his report. Thanks very much, Justin, and welcome. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr Mayor, and through the Chair. Good morning, Council. Today's report talks about round 2 of the mine infrastructure program. We may cast our mind back to earlier in the year where we went through a similar process for round 1, where Council was able to secure funding for another community project being Kettle Park earlier in the year for $250,000. So This report identifies, I guess, our next priority off the ranks, and on the back of the recent very exciting news of our long-term master plan for CQU, I guess this focuses on what is also very important in a parallel, which is our existing facilities and what we need to do to sustain them and make them viable for the community. And with that, obviously that extends to netball. Since 2017, they've been, I guess, hindered with the failure of two existing courts that are there. They've been out of commission and unusable. It's been impacting regional and state level events, school programs, and putting a lot more pressure on the access to the grass facilities, which aren't ideal. Now, that said, the RNA, the Netball Association locally, they've been doing a lot of due diligence, building their account, building the capacity to invest. And with this opportunity of funding, through a partnership with council and a small contribution financially, we're looking to try and reactivate and redevelop those two failed courts specifically to bring that facility back to 100% capacity. So subject to council supporting our application, we're hoping to secure this 250 through round 2 to contribute to that project.
Thanks very much, Justin, for that explanation. Councillors, any questions to Justin's report? I've got Councillor Wickerson, Smith and Mathers. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through to Justin. Justin, can you detail what's the nature of the refurbishment? Only the $600,000 for two courts just seems high to me. Like, I've got in my head what sort of a house you'd get for that.
Absolutely.
And then even to build them from scratch would seem high. So can you explain what the nature of the
Yeah, certainly through the chair, Councillor Wiggins, and look, that is the big question that we've all asked, and we've gone through an extensive process of, look, and to take a step back, ideally those two courts sit within a footprint of 6 courts, and in an ideal world you would look to develop a scope that looked at that whole. The cost to redevelop those courts in the current climate it's astronomical. The scope broken down, it does excavate. There is some subsoil issues with those, so there's some structural issues with the subsoil surface of those courts. So there's about a 300 mil to 350 mil removal exercise that they've got to take out of that area, and then they've got to, and look, I'll be honest, that scope and those indicative quotes that we've got, that's targeting an asphalt surface too. If we break it down to quality, there has been quotes received for gold, silver and bronze, I guess, solutions, gold being a concrete surface, but they were far more expensive. So, we do have some constraints with the funding application in terms of our budget that we've had to work within. So based on the quotes we have been able to secure, that those two courts between the 500 and 600,000, the full removal of the existing material, the subsoil rebuild, and that resurfacing through asphalt solution that's what the costs are coming in, and that's been consistent across, I think there's 3 quotes now at this point. So I know that's not nitty gritty around the detail, but it is a full removal and a full rebuild of those 2 courts.
Yeah. No, thanks, Justin. So it's basically a brand new court anyway. It's not not just resurfacing, it's digging it up.
Yeah, absolutely, certainly. Yeah, it'll be a full removal of the material underneath as well. Yeah, I think it's about 350 mil worth of excavation and new material coming in to build it up, and then the asphalt top.
So,
yeah.
So probably doing this to see, it's basically what you're doing for building a road, which would be probably similar pricing if you do that sort of meterage. Yep.
Not outside the ballpark, so I take it that was your question as well, Councillor Mathers, but I've been out to have a look at those courts and they are quite in a sorry state, so hopefully this can be successful and get the requirement upgrades. So I'll go to Councillor Smith and then Councillor Latcham.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, I know, netball has a lot of players and don't begrudge them anything, but I was just thinking they're going to be first cab off the rank in the new sports centre once it's built. And we're thinking that's years and years ahead, but it could be built fairly quickly because, the money falls out of the sky sometimes. Yeah. And I just wondered, would these old courts still be used?
That's a good question, and one that we work with netball about that. They don't become redundant subject to a new home for netball. where the sport will be grown in the years to come. So they'll still be in use. So that's the money's invested there is not money only for a short time frame.
Good to know that.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The question, Justin, is that they talk about the end of life for those two courts, but I was there about 6 or 8 weeks ago and I didn't notice it. So what is it that's end of life? Is it cracks in the court? What does it make them unplayable?
Yeah, through the chair, Councillor Latcham, the court surfaces, I think on a safety front, back in 2017, and to be more detailed, I think Court 1 was 2017, Court 6 was 2018, where they physically stopped using it. So some of the separation in the asphalt has really come open, and the subsidence in certain areas has made it a very wavy court when you're playing on it. So for the nature of that activity, it becomes a real hazard. The rest of the courts, fortunately, are actually holding up pretty well. Netball Queensland actually was here last week doing a facility audit, which is what they do statewide, just with all their regional facilities, and some of the verbal comments where, look, the other courts are actually quite okay, and they certainly recognise that those two courts certainly aren't playable as well from that state body level. So it is the opening of the asphalt and just that uneven surface and the subsidence. I won't pretend to know the detail, but I believe there is some underground drainage considerations through that area. Obviously, Jardine, there is a natural waterway through there, so that has contributed to those two end courts. And again, might factor into those costs being so high is the work they've got to do underneath that to manage that. So,
and Councillor Rutherford may be able to answer that question in detail, as Councillor Rutherford's been working with the Netball Association for many years. And when you go on site and have a look at it, you understand in detail. Councillor Rutherford?
Yes, Mr Mayor, they're the closest to what is the stormwater detention basin and drain, and even though it gets away, it's still, it still sits there anywhere from an hour and a half to a matter of days. So those courts, those two in particular, have an awful lot of underwater moisture coming through them and movement, which leads me to my question, Mr Mayor, and that would probably be, given that this is an investment, it's not just a touch-up, we're looking to invest. Is there something, and I know there's different things now with the drainage and the subsoil and everything else, but what about the surfacing? Is there some type of rubberised surfacing that could be used? Mr. CEO, they did talk about putting chopped up rubber in asphalt at one time that gave it a little bit of a movement. So I'm just wondering whether there's some sort of product that could be considered that would allow for some of that movement without cracking.
Yeah. Through the chair, I can certainly take that away and put that question back to the suppliers and the contractors. I think just as a thought, considering the budget and the current cost of the exercise, whether that, the question might be, is that something we can look at down the track? Whether there's capacity in the budget now to enhance that scope to do more might bring us into contention with that total budget, but I can certainly take that away and ask that question of the suppliers. It's certainly new to me, that notion. So.
Yeah, so if I could through the chair, so any part of that scope or the project scope, there would be an engineer would go away and do a mixed design for that surface, either being an airport or a road or a sporting facility. Someone will actually do a mixed design, and sometimes they do add a rubberised pallets to the mix, and it does give it a little bit more longevity and a bit more flexibility, but it also then can also make it a little bit more slippery. So that'll be a part of that scope and that design process that they will go through.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Back to Councillor Latcham. Sorry.
Yeah, just a quick one. I was just surprised, Justin, that was there a cost done for making it a hard court, like a concrete playing surface? Because I'm surprised they still want to play on asphalt. It rips your knees apart when you play. I'm just surprised they still want to use it.
Yeah, through the chair, Councillor Latcham, absolutely. And going back to those different levels of quotes we got, ultimately, so the back 5 or 6 courts, they're actually a concrete solution. I think it was about 5 to 10 years ago. Councillor Rutherford would probably have the detail. They were redone by the association to a concrete standard. So that is ideally what Netball look for. The existing ones out the front, I believe, are asphalt. They haven't had any issues, I guess, with that surface as it is. They're not saying it has to be concrete. Asphalt is still a still workable, playable solution for netball in that activity. The quotes certainly did look at the concrete option, and it was 30 to 40% more in terms of cost. So, perfect world, money no object. That's certainly what you would target. But considering, I guess, the budget we're working within, the needs and the value of what we're going to get out of this, it's still going to be a solution that's going to last for 10 years and beyond. And it's consistent with the rest of those courts parallel to those. So Netball seem happy with that option.
Okay, just one last quick question, Mr. Mayor. So for me, how long does a asphalt court last versus a concrete one? If we're talking about 30-40% difference in cost, but if the concrete lasts 200% more.
Yeah, through the chair, I'd have to take that away to get the detail and go back to the consultants and the contractors to get that indicative. And I guess it's all subject to the landscape, the subsoil. It can really, site to site, it would be different, and that's an estimate what they provide. So, one thing that we've been working through in the last few months is, like I mentioned at the start, we were looking at the full 6 courts because ideally you do them also to have the same life cycle. Unfortunately, there wasn't an option to capitalise on this funding opportunity in that. So, we'll have to work on whatever the recommendations of the consultant and the contractors.
Right, yeah. Thanks, Councillor Latcham. Thanks, Justin. Okay, councillors, no further questions to this report. Move Councillor Rutherford. Seconder, Councillor Smith. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors, and thank you, Justin.
Thank you, councillor.
We'll now move on to 11.9, the grant applications, and Angus will walk us through that report. Morning, Angus.
Morning, Mayor and councillors. This report this morning deals with 2 particular grant programs. So the Regional Economic Futures Fund, which we've discussed at council earlier in the year, and the Regional Precincts and Partnerships Program, which is a federal funding program which is currently open for applications at the moment. You may recall from earlier in the year, council endorsed the submission of 7 proposals to go into the Regional Economic Futures Fund. Those proposals have subsequently been submitted. Through the discussions of the program and the regional transition strategy development process that's being led by the Department of State Development, the opportunity arose to potentially put in additional proposals into the process. The intent of those additional proposals is to meet the priorities that have been emerging through the Regional Transformation Strategy development process, and particularly in relation to the provision of industrial land to support future industry development, and in relation to transport and freight facilities in the region. So we have subsequently submitted 3 additional proposals into that REF process, which include, listed in the report, development of the airport air freight capability, and particularly the Bay 7 component and the landside infrastructure associated with that development. We've also submitted a project which aims to supplement some federal funding from the National Heavy Vehicle Safety Productivity Program around the Parkhurst Industrial Area road networks, and an additional proposal in relation to acquisition of land for future industrial development in the Gracemere-Stanwell corridor. The REF process has a total of $200 million funding available across 4 targeted regions. So Central Queensland is one of those targeted regions. The dollar amount for each region is $50 million. So the pool is not great. So we would anticipate that some of these proposals are going to be passed over potentially because of their scale. But one of the things that we were wanting to do was to get a couple of our strategic priorities at least on the radar with the department, and probably anticipate that moving forward from the REF process, there'll be subsequent discussions around the regional energy changes and the transformation strategy. So those projects are in part looking to pre-position some of Council's priorities into that process. The second part relates to the...
Sorry if I could just, Angus said that, but that 50, actually there was a portion of that 50 million, 10 million of that was parked to the side. So it's really only 40 million out of the 50 that the projects will be answering. I'm not sure what the detail around the 10 million in reserve was for, but they clearly said that at the start of that process that it was only up to 40 million and that they'd have that 10 in reserve. But the indication through that process is that this is probably a first stage of further funding coming in the future. But yeah, there's not a lot of detail around that either though.
So it's quite a, I suppose, a atypical sort of program. It's not something where there's an open grants process. The state actually sought proposals from the various people that have been involved in that process. The state will make the final decisions around the projects and proposals that get funded. They anticipate making recommendations to State Cabinet later this year with possible announcements of successful projects early in the new year. So I suppose in a bit of a holding pattern in relation to the results of that particular program probably until early 2024. The setting aside of the $10 million out of the 50, my understanding of the intent was to enable a degree of flexibility for the state to actually potentially have money shifting between regions and potentially to address initiatives that hadn't already been put up through the proposal process. So in relation to the Regional Precincts and Partnerships Program, so that's a federal government program currently open. Again, it's another somewhat unusual one where it has no fixed opening and closing dates. We understand that the assessment process is likely to happen in a couple of batches. One's probably generally underway at the moment, we understand, and another sort of round of assessments will occur in the first part of next year. So we've currently submitted 2 project proposals already. So the first one is for the preliminary planning and design and detailed design of the Rockhampton Sports Precinct. The second one, which actually submitted on Sunday, was the Parkhurst enabling infrastructure, which is I suppose some of the key pieces we need to deliver to enable residential development in that northwest Parkhurst area to continue to progress and potentially remove that constraint from the development process. And we currently have an application probably about 95% complete for the Base 7 and enabling infrastructure for a future freight facility. We've looked to position that Base 7 proposal as 50% from the REF process and 50% from the Precincts and Partnerships program. So the report effectively seeks, I suppose, a retrospective endorsement of some of the projects we've already submitted and flags a couple that are still to come.
Sorry. I thought you still had more of the report there, Angus. Thank you. Councillor, we've been speaking about a number of these projects through our advocacy process as well, and yeah, I think this is just a process about where we're trying to take our region and position ourselves going forward. So the grants that are out there, we want to take full advantage of those and how we can benefit our community going forward through a number of these projects that we've been working on over the term of our council, which are really exciting projects and one that really can benefit our community going forward. to the economy and also the lifestyle for our residents. Councillor Latcham, Councillor Rutherford and Councillor Mathers.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Question through to Angus. And as Mr Mayor said, there's some great projects in there that you put in for grants. Is this the grant that you would apply for, should there be a desire for it, but to put in finishing off the footpaths up to the top of Mount Archer? Is this the grant that you would do it through this as well, or not?
So the Regional Precincts and Partnerships program, so it comes in two streams. So there's a planning stream, which I believe the financial contributions from the program are between $500,000 and $5 million for the planning component. The second stream is capital project funding of, I think it's between $1 million and $20 million. So it's generally targeted at larger projects. There's a fairly deliberate approach in the program to tie it back to effectively what the program says about precincts, so development of precincts, whether they be community precincts, employment precincts, those sorts of things. And the partnerships is about who you're actually working with to deliver these particular projects and initiatives. So things like footpaths may, in my mind, fall into a different category. I think there's another discussion that we'll have with council between now and the end of the year around what our overarching advocacy priorities are, particularly in the lead up to the October 2024 state election, and then probably the subsequent federal election, which sort of I think is any time up to May 2025.
Okay, well said. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Latcham. Councillor Rutherford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a general comment, if I may, because sometimes it's easy to get dragged down in the negative stuff and the tough stuff, and when you get a report like this, thank you, Angus, but for the report, but just I guess it highlights some of the really positive stuff, the opportunities that are there, and what really is great about our future in this region, and it's for all the work that you've put into it, Angus, thank you, and thank you for highlighting those great opportunities.
Yeah, you're right, Councillor Rutherford, and probably Anne and Angus and the team that have put in the detail that these reports require when you're lodging those submissions, and there's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes, so recognise that. Councillor Mathers.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Just a very similar comment actually is all I wanted to make, which was, Angus and Anne, thank you so much for this, because it's they're very worthwhile projects all the way through here, and even like you say, Angus, we may not get all the money or none of it at all, but the more we keep the spotlight on those projects in front of the people down south, the better it is for us. So good job, and let's keep pushing forward with it. So thank you for that.
Thank you, and I'd probably specifically acknowledge Anne and the amount of work that goes into putting together some of these proposals and grant funding applications. But it really is an effort across a wider team. So, we work with Marcus in relation to the airport-related projects. We work with the infrastructure planners in relation to the Parkhurst infrastructure, and even the DA planners around those sorts of things. So these sorts of things really are a team effort across multiple areas in council.
Yep, good point. Thanks, Councillor Mathers. Councillors, I'm happy to move, and Councillor Fisher second. If we don't have any questions on that one, I'd just like to wrap up and say these are the highest priorities, and the one that we're looking for the funding. But that's not the end of it either. There's lots of other areas that we're working on as well in the team, and I think that's going to be a great outcome for the organisation going forward. Just to be mindful that we don't burden ourselves with too many options, but that's try and keep it as concise as we can. That said, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Angus. Good report. Moving on to 11.10, the consideration for support for the community hospice. I'll ask Marnie to, Councillor Kirkland, step out of the room for this one.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good morning, everyone. So this is a report in relation to the notice of motion that was put forward by the Mayor at the meeting on the 24th of October. regarding the full waiver of infrastructure charges in relation and the remaining costs of water infrastructure upgrades for the Fitzroy Community Hospice. Council has been approached by the Fitzroy Community Hospice in regards to the provision of fee relief, and as a result of this request, the Mayor put forward that notice of motion at the last meeting. So this report is in response to the resolution that Council expressed support for the Fitzroy Community Hospice's Agnes Street project and request a report be presented to the next available Council meeting for Council to consider a 100% waiver of the infrastructure charges and the remaining balance of the new water connection fee. So just for a bit of background, Council, in relation to the project, as everyone would be aware, the hospice is a not-for-profit charitable organisation establishing that hospice facility in Agnes Street. The organisation is in the advanced stages of delivering that first hospice outside of southern Queensland, so providing greater access to the residents for community-based palliative care. In July of last year, Council approved a development application or a development incentive application from the hospice in which 75% of the infrastructure charges were waived. But subsequent to that, the hospice has now approached Council to consider further relief in that regard and effectively provide a 100% concession of those infrastructure charges, which amounts to just under $112,300. So that decision to apply the 100% concession is outside of the policy, which has now expired, so that's why it's coming to Council for a decision in relation to that matter. The other one is in relation to private work. So the hospice approached Council, or FRW in particular, to get a quotation on the installation of a metered fire line and also domestic connection for the property. So a quote was provided, and subsequent to that, the deposit was paid by the hospice. But since then, the subsequent invoice, which was for the remainder of the works, has been issued to them, and they've now come back to Council and requested Council consider fee relief in that regard as well. So consideration of waiving the remainder of those fees, which were in the amount of around $8,797. So I guess provided in the report also is in relation to previous decisions that Council has made in relation to the hospice, and really now the decision is around whether to provide the 100% concession on those infrastructure charges and also waive the remainder of the water connection and fire service connection fees that have been issued to the hospice.
Thanks very much for your report, Marnie. Firstly, if I can, I think and I believe that this is an opportunity for Council to demonstrate our support for a facility that's going to mean so much for our community going forward. And understanding the pressures on building a new facility like this and the costs involved in it, I believe Council's supporting this process. Sorry, I'll move first and then seek a second, so I'm speaking in favour of the recommendation. So I'll just go for 1B and 2B, sorry, as far as the options go. My apologies, Councillor, I should have done that before that and seek a mover in a second with regards to that. It's 1B and 2B in those options. And seek a seconder. Councillor Mathers. Oh, sorry, Councillor Fisher, I promised Councillor Fisher he texted me just before, said he'd like to move, but I said he could second. So Councillor Fisher second. Councillors, yes, again, I believe that this is an opportunity for Council to demonstrate full support of a facility that's going to mean so much to our community for many, many years to come, and to help with the establishment of this facility through the costs of construction, and how Council in some small way can lend that support to a non-for-profit organisation which is going to really change a lot of families' lives in the region going forward, and what that can mean. I think we all can hold our heads up high in our community by supporting this recommendation, what this project is going to mean. Okay, that said, Speaker against? speaker for. I'll let Councillor Fisher speak and then we'll go to comments. So Councillor Fisher, no comment? You're right. Councillor Mathers and then Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I just want to say thanks very much for bringing this to the table. It's a very worthwhile cause, and I can't speak highly enough about the organisation or the board that's handling it as well. So, you know, what this is going to bring to our community is absolutely fabulous. I did just want to make a note in regards to the officer's report, which was great, thank you very much. But, you know, with the risk assessment, you know, this decision in this report may set a precedence for future requests for assistance from similar organisations. I'd just like to say, Mr Mayor, that if it's an organisation of the same standard and going to bring the level of service to the community and the benefit to the community, I'd be happy for that to set that to set that precedent. So I'm very happy to support this.
And again, on that matter, each one's judged on its merits, and I think that's the officers just putting that there, and that's the officers you know, in their right to make those information to the councillors, so they're fully aware of the decision we're making. Councillor Mathers and Councillor Rutherford and Councillor Smith. Councillor Wickerson.
Thanks, Mayor. Probably similar sentiments as my colleague. Potentially, and sadly, everyone in this whole region could benefit from this centre. We don't know what's in our future for our families, so it's only right, I think, that then the whole community get to support this to make sure that it is sustainable and ongoing. So, as you said, the cost to build such a facility is huge, as we know, but it's also the ongoing cost, so that you've got to staff it with qualified people, and it's just a huge operational cost per year. So anything we can do to make sure that place is firing and sustainable as we go into the future is money well spent, I think. So, you're welcome.
Thanks, Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Rutherford.
Just comment if that's all right, Mr.
You're
Mayor.
right, you're right.
Yeah. And it's just, for me, this is certainly one of the most important projects that are happening in our community, one of the most needed things for our community, and it's brilliant to see that a committee have got together and have driven this, and it's been hard work, and it's been very costly, and if we as a council can jump on board and ease that burden just a little bit for something that is so important, then I think it's one of the very good things that we can do as a council.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Yeah, echo those comments. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, comments as well, Mr Mayor. I think we can be proud that we have a group of people that are so dedicated, so professional in bringing this to fruition, and I think the tradespeople as well that's been involved in it have been very generous in their dealings as well. That's after the tour that we had, and I think I've got no problem with our decision, because I think it's just so worthwhile. And I think I read somewhere this is the first one outside of metropolitan Queensland, so I think we can be really proud that this is happening in Rockhampton.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Councillors, there's no further comments. I'll put those in favour. Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. We'll invite Councillor Kirkland back into the meeting. Thank you for your report, Marnie. I do appreciate that, the work that's gone involved in that. Thank you. Moving on to our 11.11, the LGMA manager exchange. I think that's basically given by the report. I'm happy to move. Seek a seconder. Conflict. Would you like to move? Seconded, Councillor Rutherford. No questions around that report, councillors. Question? Yes,
Mr. Mayor. The other, you mentioned in the report there was another person who came over here. Now, we don't pay them when they get paid by their own mob. No, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's a great initiative by the LGMA, and the fact that they pay for that travel expenses and everything is I thought, oh, that's good. Yeah. That's covered. Who else has been away and overseas on these trips, and what sort of feedback and benefit did they get from it through you, Mr Jett,
this
CEO?
Is our first manager who's been on the LGMA exchange for many years. So yeah, normally the LGMA Queensland spread that around. People make applications to the board. Other CEOs, managers make to the board each year, and this is the first one from Rocky, I think it is, that I can recall of.
Through you, Mr. Chair, through you
Yep.
to Mr. CEO. So will Alicia be bringing back a report to us on the things that she benefited
Well, she
from?
probably will, yeah. I would suggest that even though she's going to do a report for the LGMA board, and normally any of those travels, they bring back a report to myself at least.
Yeah.
I'm happy to circulate that to councillors.
Yeah, through the CIB or something,
Yeah.
even.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions on that one, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. And it brings us to our last agenda item, the adoption of the 22... Oh, we have to. Sorry, nearly overlooked that one. Sorry, Liz. 11.12, the adoption of the 22-23 annual report, and I'll hand over to Ross to present the report.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Ross.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, the annual report is for you today for hopefully for adoption. In a notice I did send through last week, there was hoped to be intended to be at the time a final management letter from QAO on the financial statement side of it. Unfortunately, the QAO haven't provided that in time for this report. That will come at the next council meeting. The financial statement side of itself has been through audit committee. You would have seen that in the audit committee minutes. So the statements have actually been signed off by QAO. It's just that final management report which will be presented to council at the next council meeting. Other than that, Mr Mayor, the team have pulled this together. It's produced in-house and all, and done. Leonie basically puts it together, and Emma's team puts it into the format. So we've put it there for any question. I'm happy to take an answer.
Any questions, councillors? If not, I think again we can all, as councillors and the organisation, can hold our heads high, because this is a fantastic report that actually shows the achievements of the council going forward. We've had some difficult challenges, but we've had some great successes as well. And I'm just a little bit disappointed we couldn't add a few more of those projects like the Mount Morgan Pipeline and the Alliance Airlines opening
next year.
Heritage Minerals, but get that into next year's report. But you know, it's really exciting times to see some of these projects coming off, and the work that's gone in, not only from the councillors but the staff behind the organisation to make those make it is. So if there's no questions there, I'm happy to move. And seconded, Councillor Fisher. Did you have a question or a comment? No. Okay, I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Ross. And now we'll move to our last agenda item, the 11.6. And Liz will present that report on the beneficiaries, the sponsorship, animal sponsorship program. Thanks very much, Liz.
Morning, Mayor and councillors. My apologies for being late. I'm really sorry about that. I misjudged how quickly you'd move through everything. So what I'd like to put forward this morning is the conservation recipients for the funds from the zoo for the next 2 years. I've put a list in there of who the recipients of the previous years have been, and over the last 3 years we've proudly donated about $60,000 to conservation projects. So a massive feather in the cap for Rockhampton Zoo. So what we'd like to put forward, same as we did the previous couple of years, is a local or a national group and an international group for each year, and we just split the funds 50-50. So for this financial year, we're looking at BirdLife Capricornia, so that is a local group. They do look at the birds and wildlife around our immediate region, and then the international group is through FFI for their gibbon project over in Vietnam. And that doesn't just help the gibbons, it helps all the animals that live in the gibbons habitat. And then for the following financial year, for a national, we didn't have any other local ones that we could find that met the criteria that we're looking for. We're looking at the Save the Cassowary Fund. So it still is a national project. And then international, looking at the Macaw Recovery Network. So where I said we were struggling with some of the smaller funds for local, we did get caught out this financial year that's just been passed with one of the local funds that weren't actually registered with the ACNC, so a learning for us. So moving forward, we have been checking off who they're registered with, and that did eliminate a lot of the smaller local groups. from who we could consider.
Okay, thanks very much, Liz. Questions? Councillor Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. You get a significant amount of money that you've been able to contribute, which is great moving forward. I expect that's probably going to grow as the popularity of our beautiful zoo continues to grow. I just have one question, and that is, will these recipients provide an acquittal of how that money is applied within their organisation, or do we just give the money and say, put it to best use?
So some of them, the bigger ones like FFI, we supported last year for the chimp project in Liberia. They have been amazing. They've been providing updates every couple of months of what their funds have been used for. Obviously, they're a big organisation. They've got the ability to do that reporting and reach out. But as a general rule, we've got the blurb on what they intend to use the funds for, and we don't go back and ask them to show what they've used the funds for. We trust that they're using the projects that they've said they're going to use it for. And I think one of the reasons the FFI guy has come back a few times, obviously they've got a lot of other projects that they want to try and keep us on board with, but part of their scope did change a little bit. So he felt, because he had told us he'd be using it for X, Y and Z, and then that changed a bit, he came and asked us if we were okay with it. So that was really, really nice to know that they did that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just consequence of that response, then thank you, Liz, that's great. Do you actually, I know the zoo's Facebook page is just so active, and it's wonderful to see people from all around the world actually interested in what's happening. Do you reflect on that Facebook page then some of the great things that people who are paying money for their experiences at Rocky Zoo are also contributing to this, and this is what's happened overseas? Do you give a report back through that avenue or other avenues?
So we do it through Facebook, and then when we do the end of year, here's an $8,000 cheque to FFI for the chimps. We actually do a media release with that as well, and that gives us promotion, but it also promotes the project and the good work that they're doing over in Liberia and places like that. So it gives us both a bit of publicity, and then we encourage people to go back on and where they can donate to support them and support us further.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rutherford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to support this, but a question if I could, and it's probably about the status of some of our local groups, and can we work with them to get them registered with the ACNC so that they can fall within our capacity to assist?
We could advise them that if they want to be considered, this is what we require, but we can't help them in that process. So the charity that we had last year that we got caught up with was Turtles of CQ, and it only became apparent when I was given something to sign and the bank account was in her personal name, and I was like, no, can't do that. So talking with our finance department, we can't give them advice on how to set up and structure their business. But what I have said to her is, you need to be on the ACNC register. Here's a link to their site, and you can contact them and do what you need to do. And she's investigating that. So we've actually got her funds held in trust because we had told her she was getting them. And if she chooses to do that, we'll then release the funds. If not, we'll find another one. So we could reach out to some of those smaller ones and say, look, we have got this system in place now where 15% of income is put aside for it. If they want to be considered, this is what we need, but that's as much as we can't actually help them.
I get that. I was just wondering about our native wildlife carers, or groups like that, whether there are some of them that we could tap into.
Yeah, if they're with the ACNC, we can certainly look into it, but these are the ones that we had a whole list, and then the staff at the zoo, same process as we did previous couple of years, everyone voted for who they wanted to support. So these were the ones that ticked the ACNC and then got the highest number of votes of who we wanted to support. So we can certainly do that for the next period moving forward.
Yeah, I think with Councillor Rutherford, it'd be great to see it locally, and if we can reach out to other organisations that they, just to inform them if they can go through this process and they'd be eligible, without helping them to actually do it. But it'd be great to see that money spread locally to organisations that are out there. Thanks, Councillor. Rob?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, probably just to add to that, it touches more specifically about looking after animals.
Yes.
That's probably where I was coming from as well.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Latcham?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Question through to Liz. The ACNC, is it a costly process for the local groups?
I'm not 100% sure. Would you know, Marnie?
Because is that the stumbling block that's stopping them from joining?
Yes. They don't have to have DGR status and all of that. I looked into it that far because that was one of their concerns, because that's a massive, big hurdle. But they do need to be registered as a charity, so we're not giving them money as an individual, but the cost involved I didn't look into because I wasn't allowed to give any advice or
we want
anything
more
like that.
local organisations to be eligible.
Yes.
That could be ruling them out, so maybe we've got to look at the guidelines if that's the case, but no.
Yeah. Councillor Kirkland, question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just wondering, Liz, does if those organisations, because it's an arduous process, takes a long time to get that status, that ACNC status, but does it preclude the zoo if they are actually auspiced by someone who is registered with ACNC? So if they've got another governing body that's registered with ACNC that are willing to auspice the smaller group, would that assist, or is it too? I'm probably
I
look over to
probably
Elizabeth.
to Marnie.
She's not listening.
Probably gets a bit, we might take that offline and have a look at that one anyway, Councillor.
Yeah. It's just another option.
Yeah. Liz, if I could, Councillor Rutherford, are you happy to move? Councillor Rutherford, have a seconder. Councillor Smith. Just on this, I think it's the staff that need credit in this space as well. These people just don't donate by walking through the zoo. It's listening to those talks and the information sessions that's provided by our wonderful staff at the zoo, and that's when people have a look and make that decision to make those contributions and how they can help in a way to with these organisations. That's the credit needs to come back to the staff as well, Liz, in that space. But if there are any other comments at all on that, Councillor Latcham.
Thanks. So I just quickly looked it up. The ACNC doesn't charge a fee. So that's no reason.
Okay. Liz?
Sorry, I've just noticed, my apologies, on that table the years are out of whack. 22-23 should be 23-24 and then 24-25. We're a year behind, so my apologies. Just so the minutes are corrected.
Yep. It's not in the recommendation, but yes, it is. Yeah, sorry. Yep. Okay. And what's the 22?
Apologies for
23, 24. Yep. Okay. Righto. Thanks, Karen. We have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Rutherford, and seconded Councillor Smith. Put those in favour. Those opposed, motion is carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Liz, for your report.
Thank you very much.
Councillors, that draws us to the end of our agenda items, and I'd just like to thank Council for your participation, the officers for their reports, and I'll close the meeting. Thank you. Councillors, we'll take